Just start out by, I mean, we all know who you are, but you can start by introducing yourself, of course, and just kind of give us a summary of what you've been talking about today.
Yes. Hello. Hiya. I'm Ben Hammersley, and I'm I do lots of things. I'm the British Prime Minister's ambassador to Tech City, which is the part of London where all the startups are. I'm the editor-at-large of Wired magazine. I'm innovator in residence at Goldsmiths in London, and a fellow at the Brookings Institution in Washington, and a writer and broadcaster and speaker on stage of things.
So
mostly tired. I'm mostly just tired.
I can imagine.
So I'm drinking coffee.
What have you been talking about today?
So today I talked about smart cities, and I started by giving an overview of Moore's law and the sort of the underlying forces of technological change, and try to give some examples of or frame that in a way which gets people to understand that doubling of power or the halving of price, and how important that is. And then I talked about what smart cities were about, and then I pointed out the smart cities were the smart city idea is only possible now because of the smartphone, and then how the smartphone changes our inner psychology, and then from that sort of try to tie it together with my personal opinion about how we have to be very careful when we're taking technology and embedding it in such a deep and meaningful way in our lives, in the architecture of our cities, in our houses, in our communities, and so on, that we pay attention to what it does to us as people, and what cultural values might be inherent in that technology that we get from somebody else. And so if we agree with the idea that technology is used in a smart city context to optimize our lives, then we have to pay a lot of attention to what it is that it's optimizing. And it could be optimizing for commute time, for example. As the example I gave was, it could be optimizing to get us to work really quickly and back home again to the suburbs really quickly. Whereas in some cities, Aarhus for example, you might not actually want to get from your home to your office really quickly, because there are lots of pretty girls on bicycles and nice places to have a coffee and sit out and watch everybody go by. And, and in a summer's day, it's actually quite nice. And so you might want to optimize for serendipity, or you might want to optimize for imagination or for romance or something like that, rather than optimizing for red and tooth and claw sort of capitalist.
So it needs to be very cultural, really, is what you're saying, but it should reflect the city that the technology is implementing.
Yes, we have to. If we admit to ourselves that technology radically changes, is a radical part of our daily life, then our technological choices, both what we choose to buy, what we choose to use, and how we choose to use it, we have to admit will affect our culture. And if all of that technology comes from a single place with a specific lifestyle in mind, specifically the west coast of America, then in a very subtle way, though, the cultural values of, say, IBM or Microsoft or Apple or whatever will be embodied in the technology that we use to manage our lives. And so in a subtle way, those technologies influence the way we live our lives, even though we're here in Jutland, and so it's very important that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's important for us to be mindful of it. It's important for us to acknowledge that this stuff does have an effect on us, and to examine what effect it has, and whether or not we're cool with it. And if we're cool with it, then great, right? And if we're not, then that's also good, because it enables we've paid attention to that, and we know that for example, email, for example, Outlook or Mail app or any of those sorts of major email clients have got a certain set of cultural values embedded in the software. Cultural value of you must reply to your email straight away. And Facebook has a certain set of cultural values embedded in it, which are the cultural values of Zuckerberg and his development team, which is that everything should be shared. For many people, I think we sort of sleepwalked, whatever. We've sort of stumbled blindly into using a lot of these tools in a very strong way. And allowing those tools to shape us rather than allowing us to shape those tools. And it's time that we paid a lot more attention to that, because it might be that we have taken on behaviours and cultural values provided by others that we're not actually comfortable with. If you pay attention to what Facebook, for example, does, you might suddenly think, actually, I'm actually not cool with this. Or you might say, you know what, yeah, fine, I'm totally cool with it. In which case, then you're just coming at it from a much more examined world.
How do you see? I mean, I very much like this. I mean, I know that the Yakov, the mayor of Aarhus, talks about it a lot. I did an interview with him last year where he spoke about the idea of the smart city.
Yeah.
Where do you see that affecting, say, someone like me who has a family? I live in Denmark, I live in Aarhus. Where do you see that affecting someone like me and my relationship with local government? Because to me, it having more information readily available promotes some kind of openness.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the reasons why I'm here in Aarhus. Partly to give this speech, but I'm leaving here in half an hour to go and do a 2-day design workshop with the local government on exactly this problem. Lots of different ways. There's lots of calls for openness and transparency in government from all the way around the world, and that comes from a slightly negative place, which is we want the government to release all of its data so that we can check, so that that enables us to make sure that politicians are being, the bureaucracies are honest. So there's that negative thing, which is effectively saying you have to be open with your stuff because we think you're lying, right? So there's that protection against corruption thing. However, I think there's a more positive way of looking at it, and I know that's the way that the Aarhus government is very much into, and the direction we're heading in, which is using that data to reinforce and to strengthen the local community, and to expose. The experiment I'd like to do is to expose the interconnections of the city. So the new development on the harbour front, for example, with the hospital. That hospital's being built by local craftsmen, being built by local builders, and it's paid for by local taxpayers, and it will be there. It'll be there for 100 years, and it'll be where local kids are born. It's where local people will die, and it's where it'll be a major centre for the local community for a very long time. Now, perhaps we can strengthen the community by using open data to expose just how interconnected everybody is around that project. By showing that it's been built by 3,000 people, all of whom live in the local region. By connecting the citizens in the city to the hospital in real time. It'd be kind of nice to have just a feed of the number of babies born there every day. Just it's not earth-shattering, but it's a little bit that there's little bits of data, that little thing which then feeds into the city, which brings everybody closer in a very community-based way. Another good example that another project that I'd really like to do is with the snow plows. So, it snows here, and when it snows, they go out and plough the roads. Now, the local authorities know when that's going to happen because it's their job to do that, right? So, imagine a time in the future where you could, on the day that it's when the weather is forecast to snow overnight, you can go onto the council website or onto a specific website, and it will say, snow is forecast today. Hey Greg, we know you live here. We know you're roughly in this neighbourhood because the location detection in your browser says that you're roughly here, which means that you're near snowplow number 7's route, and snowplow number 7 is being driven by Martin, and Martin lives in this region over here, and he's going to be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's going to be driving past, and based on where you are and based on this route, we think he'll be going past your house at roughly this time. And so if you're up, then flash your bedroom lights or whatever, wave at Martin as he goes past and say thank you. And after he's finished his route, he'll be finishing at this depot where this other guy is going to be cleaning his plough and everything, and Martin will then go to this cafe and have breakfast, and that cafe has been in a local family's, it's been a local business for the past 120 years. And now that data already exists. We already know all of that. We already know the route they're going to drive, we know who's going to be doing the driving, we know all this sort of stuff. But if we could pull it out and expose it in real time, then it means that when you can't sleep, or when if you're a new father and you've got a newborn who's got you up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're looking at your iPad as you're holding the baby, and you're going, oh look, yeah, the snowplow's going to go past, and it's Martin the snowplow driver, and you can wave at him. Suddenly you're everybody is, Martin the snowplow driver feels good because he's just been acknowledged, and it's 4 in the morning, and he's seen these bedroom lights flashing, and he goes, oh, it's great. And you feel good because you see him, and suddenly the city becomes a much more friendly and an interconnected place. And by exposing those interconnections, by exposing that inherent community, it strengthens it. And I think that increase in social capital, that strengthening of cultural connections is something that is really necessary as we go together into sort of this weirdly uncertain, Moore's law driven future. Because the world is so weird, because we can't possibly make a prediction about what it'll be like in 10 years' time. I mean, we'd be idiots if we tried. Then the only thing we've got is each other. And I don't want to sound terribly hippie about it, but it is kind of like that. That we can use this data and we can use these interfaces to help each other see the connections in the place that we live. And so that, I think that would, it's not the same as being able to find the right bus, or not the same as knowing where to go and park your car, and not that real-time stuff. But over the medium to long term, I think it will radically change the nature of the city if we know the interconnectedness, if we see how the community works. I think it would make a big difference.
Are we ready for this, though, do you think? Because I certainly know I'm very much on Twitter, and I use social media a lot, and I like to share as much as possible.
Yeah.
But my wife doesn't.
Sure.
My wife is very private and very...
Sure.
So where do you think the balance is? Are we ready for all this sharing?
Well, it's never going to be enforced. It's never going to be thrust upon you. But I think yes, absolutely, we're definitely ready for sharing. Sure, nobody's asking everybody to suddenly get on Twitter or on Facebook and start tweeting about your complex inner lives. But a little bit of extra transparency around the edges really does make a big difference. Especially when you combine it with behavioural economics and that sort of thing, where perhaps not here, but in most cities, in most countries, the council, the government, the local government is always the them. It's always those people over there, and I think it's a really interesting experiment to see what would happen if they stop being the them and started being people again, and not only people but actually like neighbours. And that's not asking people to sort of, like I say, it's not asking people to expose their inner hopes and fears, but by exposing the interconnectedness of everybody, by just by pointing it out almost, I think it creates a new mindfulness in the way that we go about our daily business. So you're right. If I was saying yes, everybody needs to be on Twitter and everybody needs to be giving a running commentary of their emotional lives, then no, that would be nonsense. But knowing the name of the person who sweeps your street, so that when you see them the next time you can say hi, that actually might make a difference in a tiny and weird and slightly hippie-ish way. But I don't know, I'm the one with tattoos, so
Cool. Thank you very much.
thank you.